Choice, your creative superpower. We have the power to manifest as we dedicate attention to our thoughts, but often miss opportunity to achieve the greatest good. Your superpower is waiting to be unleashed to unlock a fuller, more rewarding world for all. Join us every Thursday at noon Mountain Time for Choice, your creative superpower with Zoe Muro. And now, here's Zoe.
Folks, welcome to the New Thought Media Network. My name is Zoe Muro, and as always, I am honored to be your host for Choice, your creative superpower. Coming to you from Oakland, California, each Thursday, 11 a.m. Pacific Time, 12 noon Mountain Time, to explore how you can wield your superpower for the greatest good as you co-create your life experience. Hi, Wayne. Good to see you. Hello, Shay. Good to see you as well. All right. So, what do we have going today? Oh, well, actually, let me just say this. If you're coming back, it is so good to see you here again. And for those of you who are here for the very first time, welcome to the show. I'm a religious science practitioner with the New Thought Media Network, and I'm a transformational coach. My work is with people who are looking to live their lives to the fullest. Today's episode 38, we're going to explore the relationship between choice and change. Wayne's fired with enthusiasm. Yes. All right. Way to go. That's what we like. We like enthusiasm. All right. So, choice and change. You know, when you get right down to it, folks, change occurs in one of two ways. Either you specifically choose it or you don't. And things happen. But one thing that is absolutely inevitable, irrefutable, inexorable, is that change will occur. Now, you know, it's not at all surprising that in 12-step programs, change is something that is of primary concern. After all, a person who's in recovery is trying to rebuild, or in some cases even build for the first time, a more fulfilling life, one that is not held ransom by addiction. I mention this because in 12-step programs, they use what is called the Serenity Prayer. It's a straightforward disclosure of how to affect change in an effective way. Now, for those of you who are unfamiliar with it, the most commonly heard version is this: God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And yes, I I know this quite well. For years, I've used this prayer as a way to focus my attention and my energy most effectively. In fact, I just celebrated 42 years of sobriety on April 21st. And I have to say, though, given the philosophy and the perspectives of New Thought, and specifically Science of Mind, I have come to think of this prayer differently. Namely, I don't feel a need to ask a higher power for serenity, for courage, or for wisdom. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying this is because I'm always serene, courageous, and wise. You can ask any of my friends or family. But seriously, the reason I needn't ask for these things is that I have come to understand they are part of who and whose I am. So for me, it's not about beseeching, it's about clarifying, about aligning. That is to say, It's about being clear about the power and the capabilities which are already within me. Now, granted, I'm presenting this on a New Thought platform through a New Thought organization, but I feel it's important to recognize that we, all of us, are far more capable and far better equipped to make changes and to handle changes than we might have thought. So, whether you are someone who is an adherent or proponent of New Thought or not, recognize that we have so much more power, we have so much more capability. And it comes to how we apply our choice, how we choose to make changes. So let's take a look at what it does take for us to use these abilities that are within us. I mean, think about it. Just because they exist, that's not a guarantee any more than having food in your refrigerator and a stove to cook with means you'll be eating a meal. Still have to do the work. We still have to make choices. We still need to make effective choices. Okay, so we have these two aspects of change: making a change through our own volition and having something in our life change that we didn't ask for and, in fact, might not have wanted at all. Let's start with changes that we choose. The author Virginia Woolf once wrote, "A self that goes on changing is a self that goes on living." A self that goes on changing is a self that goes on living. If we look to nature, and I often do, we see that every living organism is undergoing constant change. In fact, the only time change is not present is when an organism has died and fully decomposed. And even then, its component parts have become part of something else. And the process, in essence, continues. We human beings are natural organisms, and we are also constantly changing. Look at social media. Social media alone makes it clear by the images that we see that are projected from years ago. In the, on this day and 10 years ago, oh yeah, we see many, many changes. Get this clear though. Change is not an enemy. And it most certainly can be an ally when it's employed well. It can also be a source of goodness, a source of well-being. Each day when we open our eyes from a night's sleep, we get to choose. And I will suggest that this is an important choice. What kind of day will we have? We can, of course, choose to believe that we'll have a good day or a poor one, but we also have the ability to change our mind at any point, hit the old restart button, in a manner of speaking, and choose to have a better day, possibly even a good day. So, first thing to consider changing, your mind. Let's be really clear here. No one can truly tell you what to think because you have the ability to accept it or reject it. Your thoughts belong to you. Your mind belongs to you. Oh, sure, someone can suggest to do something that brings up a thought in your mind. Maybe it's a concern or a fear or a doubt, whatever it might be. But taking that thought and then running with it, that's all you. That's your choice. Oh, hey. Hi, Fiona. Good to see you. Now, if you have spent any time around New Thought, you've undoubtedly heard some variation on this phrase: change your thinking, change your life. Personally, I prefer a slight variation of this. Change your thinking, change your experience of life. The reason I prefer this variation is that simply changing my thoughts, changing how I think, does not necessarily change the conditions or circumstances which affect my life. But I have the opportunity to choose how I will react to those conditions or those circumstances. And then I can choose how I will proceed, which can lead to a far more fulfilling experience for myself and for others as well. So, the most effective, the most powerful choices we make aren't the ones where we choose to change who we are to be a better person. No, no. This is really important. They're the ones that bring us closest to our true self, stripping away false beliefs and stories which restrict or limit us. That's a lot of power, folks. That's a lot of capability. It's a lot of possibility. But what does it take for us to choose change? Well, it starts with a very simple question. Not an easy question necessarily to answer, but a simple question. Why? Why do I want to change something? In order to answer that question, we need awareness. Awareness that something is not the way we believe would be most beneficial for us or for others. Now, I'm assuming that we're looking to improve life, not dismantle it. I mention that because, yeah, there have definitely been times that, and I'm just speaking for myself here, that I've chosen to do or say something that I knew in my heart was not going to end well. But in all honesty, in a fit of anger or frustration, stupidity, it's fair to say stupidity, because at times I have definitely acted stupidly. I've said or done the exact wrong thing. When you've got all the warning signs, they're like, rockets going off and flags waving and all, and you think, yeah, that's not clever. But that is definitely not what we're looking at today. What we want to explore today is how to do this intelligently, how to do this well. So we become aware of a situation, a circumstance, a state of being, a state of mind, whatever it might be. And we consider what we do want. If you find yourself considering change because of something you don't want, right? Something you do not want, I want you to stop for a moment. And I want you to be clear about what you do want, because this is how we can choose a change that can move us not simply away from something, but towards something. I learned to drive very late in life because I lived in Manhattan for many years, and I didn't have a need for a car. When I finally did take driving lessons, the thing that drove me absolutely crazy was trying to go between obstacles. And what my driving instructor taught me as I was driving, and I'd be veering to one way or I'd be veering to the other way, he said, okay, here's what you need to do. You want to get through these obstacles. I want you to envision going through them. I want you to envision the other side of it. Go towards that as opposed to going away from the cars. I've always remembered that. Always remember that. Shay, yes, to be free, comfortable, and enjoy in your body temple. It's good. Have that clarity. That's important. Now, this is the perfect time for us to ensure that what we are considering is indeed beneficial. So we choose to envision, to explore, to examine, to discern. Okay. So we go through that. Next, we choose to act. Now, acting in this case might literally mean doing something, or it might mean to stop doing something, or taking a different perspective. Having decided on what that action is, we then get to choose to validate our choice. Did it in fact result in the change or begin the process of resulting in the change that we desired? Assuming success, we're good. Otherwise, we recalibrate. All right. Our ability to change, that is, to affect changes of our own volition, as great a gift as it may be, is completely dependent upon our desire to change. Okay, our desire to change. It's been said, and you've probably seen this quote before, people don't resist change, they resist being change. All right, they don't resist change, they resist being changed. Fair enough. But I would say from my own experience that it really depends on a person's perspective and mindset whether they resist change or not. Just the other day, I was talking to someone and he said, I hate change. I just want things to stay exactly the way they are. Okay. I would bet my last dollar that they didn't really mean that at all. Never see any change at any time for anything. Just those things that bother them when they change. Things that distress them. I will say, though, it's amazing to me the things that people will resist. But change, it throws things off. When we remodeled our kitchen, I was so used to moving at a certain pattern to get the ingredients that I wanted in the pots and pans. I used to be a chef, so I love to cook. But I found myself turning in circles, trying to navigate the changes to the kitchen. It took me weeks to settle into it. And unfortunately, I do struggle with OCD at times. And I have a few, thankfully, very few, but I do have a few very specific routines that I have to go through. I feel really compelled to complete in a certain fashion. Anything that changes that, interferes with those routines, becomes exceedingly challenging for me. So I am not going to judge anyone for the things that they resist. But I will say this. I will say, make sure that what you're resisting, all right, what you're resisting to change is not harming you or limiting you. And another expression you've likely heard is that what you resist will persist. So if it's something that is really troubling, if it's something really bothersome, it's time to dig into what needs to change. A very common refrain throughout all the episodes that I've done has been how many different aspects and facets of who we are and how we live our life can affect one another. So consider, for example, how identity can have a tremendous impact on how we view change. In my work as a transformational coach, I've worked with parents whose children have now grown and they've left the nest. It's a very common reason that people come to me. It's changing their identity, if you will, as a parent, from what I'm going to refer to as a custodial role to an advisory role. Now, it can be extremely challenging to realize that this person, this child is now an adult with their own life separate from yours. They're responsible for themselves. They're making choices on their own. They're making choices of their own. Now, folks, you can resist this one if you want, but as the British and the Borg, for those of you who are Star Trek fans, so as they say, resistance is futile. Now, perhaps the most challenging changes we don't choose for ourselves, but still experience, are those resulting from loss. All right? Loss through illness or death, loss of a relationship, of a job, even of a capability. But even here, we get to choose. We get to choose, first of all, whether we will acknowledge that the loss has occurred. It's amazing how much we can hide from ourselves. We get to choose what this loss means to us. We get to choose how we want to react to the loss. You know, having said all of this, regardless of what the change is that we did not choose for ourselves, but we still had to endure, all the same choices can apply. Just substitute the word change for the word loss. So we can choose to acknowledge a change. We can choose to acknowledge what it means to us, what it means to our life. And then we get to choose how we want to react to it. All change that is not chosen by ourselves can fall into that category. Now, I want you to bear in mind that all of us are connected one to the other in some way, shape, or form. And what affects one of us can have a significant impact on many others. I want you to consider this quote from Martin Luther King Jr. He said, "One of the great liabilities of history is that too many people fail to remain awake during periods of social change. Our survival depends on our ability to stay awake, to adjust to new ideas, to remain vigilant, and to face the challenge of change." That is a powerful quote. When you think of it, all humanity is actually dependent on change. Not troubled by it, not tortured by it, not shackled by it, but dependent on it. Because, I mean, look at it this way. We initially emulated animals, right? We saw what they ate, we saw how they hunted, etc. And as our brains developed further, we realized that we could find new ways to shelter, to hunt, to eat. And we were able to progress from being hunters and gatherers to farmers, and on and on and on and on. It's actually amazing how far we have come in what is relatively a short number of years as in our existence as human beings. But I can tell you, just in the 7+ decades that I've been alive, I've seen massive changes in how we communicate, how we work and play, how we travel, how we view our planet, and beyond. Think of it. Every person you know or ever will know has changed. Absolutely. We change at the cellular level constantly. Billions of changes all the time. In our world, sometimes the changes are gradual, other times they're abrupt, and sometimes even cataclysmic. But change is indeed the one true constant. So, think of change as an energetic flow. You can fight and exhaust yourself trying to resist that flow, or you can embrace it and allow it to propel you to fulfillment. Life is change. Change is life. We have within us both our human and our divine nature. Here, in this existence, we work towards becoming ever more truly who and whose we are. Not only is change life, but change is fulfilling life. Right? Our greatest good. Well, that's about it for today, folks. But I do have one more quote I want to give you, actually. This is from Pema Chodron. Let's try that again. When we resist change, it's called suffering. But when we can completely let go and not struggle against it, that's called enlightenment. When we can completely let go and not struggle against it, that's called enlightenment. I would love to hear your ideas regarding choice and change. By all means, if you can, send me an email, zodemuro@gmail.com. I would love to hear your thoughts on this. Just as I would love to have you come on to the show. Let's talk about choice. Let's talk about any aspect of choice that you would like. It would be a lot of fun. If you have time, I want you to get out onto the New Thought Media Network and look at what we have going on. Today, for example, 12 noon Pacific time, that's 1 p.m. Mountain time. I want you to check out Finding the Joy in the Journey with the absolutely effervescent Reverend Gina Cavario-Krupka. And today, her special guest is the founder of the New Thought Media Network, Reverend Robert Brzezinski. We've got so much going on here, so much that we want to bring out into the world. And it takes time, it takes talent, it takes all sorts of treasure to make that happen. So by all means, please, if you can, hit that donate button. All right. Go to ntmedia.org/donate and help us bring all of this goodness to the largest possible audience, because we want to make this a world that works for everyone. Hey, Shay, send me an email, please, and let's talk about this. Remember, you can email me here, zodemuro@gmail.com. All right, folks. I look forward to seeing you again next week. And until we meet again, choose well, choose wisely. Much love and many, many blessings. Namaste.
Choice, your creative superpower. We have the power to manifest as we dedicate attention to our thoughts, but often miss opportunity to achieve the greatest good. Your superpower is waiting to be unleashed. To unlock a fuller, more rewarding world for all. Join us every Thursday at noon Mountain Time for Choice, your creative superpower with Muro.